So I'm Andrea Provaglio, and I'm a coach. I mean, I've been doing this thing for many, many years now. I try to help organizations change. So it's very intriguing that you are here. First of all, because you didn't know that I was going to be here. And second, because the title is totally incomprehensible, right? I mean, what the heck? I mean, what does that mean? It will be a mystery for a while. Okay, I'll reveal the secret by the end of the talk, more or less. So let's start with something very, very simple. Are you guys familiar with this guy? Have you seen this guy in a movie? No? No, it's very funny. Oh, you did, of course. Yeah. How could you not? It's a very funny movie. It's called Animal House. Actually, I think it's National Lampoon's Animal House. Very, very funny movie. And this guy is a very, very funny character. He's kind of a party breaker, and all the movies set in a college. So it's a very, very funny guy. And not only is funny, but he also has some particular traits. Like, oh, by the way, the name is Bluto. That's the name of this guy. So Bluto has some traits, like he tends to overeat a little bit. He tends to eat too much. Okay, and it tends to drink maybe a little too much. Okay, and other things as well. And if you see the movie, you understand. So why am I talking about Bluto? Because I mean, Bluto is a very specific character. He has his own traits and personality, and very energetic and stuff like that. But now let's imagine for a second that you are an agile coach, a change agent, you do agile transformations, you do whatever you want, and somebody asks you to transform this guy, transform a Bluto. Okay. So my question is, would you be willing to take on this gig? If somebody told you, you know what, I want Bluto to be more healthier and fitter, and I want Bluto to be leaner, okay, and more agile, okay? And please make Bluto as such, okay? Would you take on this job? I mean, I would run away. I would just, no, sorry, it's not my cup of tea. For a very simple reason, actually, that in my personal opinion, we cannot transform organizations, we cannot transform anyone. People can transform themselves if they want to, but we cannot change anybody if they don't want to. Of course, we can support change, we can promote change, we can nudge things in a certain direction. But at the end of the day, real change is only when you're able to change the underlying paradigms. So in this metaphor, you see the grass is what is very visible. So the grass you can touch, you can smell, you can see. So it's the visible part. But the grass is a product of its environment, of the field where the grass grows from. So what I'm saying is that if you take this metaphor for organizations, there are certain parts of organizations which are very visible. And Edgar Schein called these artifacts. So the artifacts in an organization is anything that you can see, you can observe, you can hear. For instance, the language, the office setup, processes, policies, documents, hierarchical charts. Now, all these parts are artifacts. They are the result of underlying paradigms by which the organization operates. If the organization grew up in a certain way, it's because the organization believes in certain paradigms. And as long as we don't change the paradigms, it's very hard that you can make serious change to the organization. Actually, it's very hard that the organization can change itself if the organization does not observe and change their own paradigms. And the other thing is that, from my perspective, change comes from leadership. Now, leadership is a very tricky word, and it could mean many different things for different people. So I need to be clear. I've been working on this concept of agile leadership. Angel was joking last night about managers now being rebranded as leaders and stuff like that. And he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. The moment that you associate a role with a person, then you have the problem of where do we put this role into our organizational structure, and it becomes messy. So that's why I became less and less interested in the role of a leader, and less interested in the personality traits of a leader. What I'm really interested about is what leadership is. And for me, leadership is not being a leader. Leadership is a transformational force in the organization, which is, by the way, one of the things I'll be talking about during my workshop later today. So when I say leadership, I'm talking about something very abstracted from a person. Leadership could be made of many different acts of leadership, which could be performed by one individual or multiple individuals, actually. And change comes from leadership. The point of leadership is to move you from here to there. This is my most recent definition of leadership. The way I think at leadership these days is leadership brings you from here to there intentionally. It's an agent for change. And so we want to change paradigms. And if you move to more recent kind of organizations, there are many paradigms that change. For instance, you can change from hierarchical structures to networks of people. You can change from focus on profit to focus on purpose. I mean, not purpose alone. Profit as a mean to a purpose. Okay. You can change the paradigm like directing people, and you become more interested in empowering people. There are a number of paradigms that change in more modern organizations. And of all these, the one I want to talk about is the difference between vertical and horizontal leadership. Now, in vertical leadership, you see it's the usual hierarchical chart. It's the usual top-down thing. And there are some things to observe when you talk about vertical leadership. Generally, in this kind of organizational structure, what happens is that information flows up, then decisions are made at some point, and then decisions flow down. So information goes up, decisions goes down. Okay? And also, the number of connecting lines, as you can see, they are much less than when you have networks of people. When you have networks of people, everybody is connected to almost everyone else, and the communication is bidirectional, right? It's not one way or the other way, it's bidirectional. So, which means that if you want to change from, then again, vertical to horizontal leadership, you can also call this, if you want to promote self-organization, if you want to help people take a personal responsibility for what they do in an horizontal way, you need to change not only the paradigm, but you need to change the communication between these guys, these people. So let me tell you a story. How are you? By the way, are you okay? Yeah. Am I too calm? No, because there are no windows in this room. It's Saturday, right? Today is Saturday morning. Is that correct? Yeah. So I'm just checking. You guys okay, right? Do you need coffee? You get coffee. Good. Smart move. Smart guys. Okay, let me tell you a story. One of my clients is a company. That's not the real name. ActiLife is not the real name, but it's a company whose let's say business model is not based on digital products. What they sell are not digital products. However, digitalization is an important part of their business, and therefore they do also have digital products which support the non-digital products. And of course, they have an IT department. They have an internal IT department. So you have an IT department here, you have a few teams, and I mean, this IT department is not perfect, but I mean, nothing is perfect, right? So it's not perfect, so there are some dependencies among different people, there are a few silos, so it's not perfect, but they are smart guys, they're doing their job, okay? And what happens is that they are serving their users, of course. And so they have digital products, to serve their users. Now, ActiLife has been extremely successful in the last few years. So not only now they need to serve users, they also need to serve communities, and therefore they have more digital products. They need to serve the global market, because now they are everywhere. And so they have more digital products. And they have, of course, PMs, whatever that means, product manager, project manager, whatever, it's up to you, okay? Who take care of different stakeholders. And now they also have strategic partners, which means there are other companies that want to work with them to make a business together and grow each other's business. As you can imagine, the IT department is under a little bit of pressure because they are receiving these uncoordinated requests from different PMs who are concerned with different stakeholders. And then again, that's life. Okay, that's life. However, this client, I've been working with this client for many years, but the last time they called me in and they asked me, okay, Andrea, listen, can you please fix these guys? Okay? Yeah, can you please make these work? Okay? And I said, well, sure. I mean, there are things that we can do. We can certainly reduce bottlenecks, as Angel was explaining last night. Okay, we can look for bottlenecks, we can optimize stuff, we can make things more visible, we can reduce interdependencies. I mean, there are a number of things we can do. However, whatever you do, these guys will always operate at a limited capacity. I mean, this is not an infinite capacity resource, whatever you do. Okay, and also there was another interesting fact about this company. In the cafeteria, they have a large 50 inches display who shows the best marketing person and best project manager who sold the most over the last quarter. Okay, so they were basically trying to incentivize marketing people and PMs to sell more, which is understandable, right? But at the end of the day, the message that came from the IT people was not actually an IT problem. I mean, what do you think? Was it an IT problem or was it an organizational problem? What do you think it was? It was an organizational problem, right? It's the way the organization operates. Which is why I told them, okay, listen, well, yes, we can do something there, but we need to work on the entire ecosystem if we really want to address this problem. And that was when they ran away, but that's a different story. So this kind of dynamic that you have seen is very well known in system theory. It's an archetype, which is like a design pattern for you IT people. I'm an IT person as well. It's like a design pattern. You can read the fine print, but basically let me tell you a story. So let's say that you have a big lake, okay, and you have a fisherman fishing from the lake. Okay, and the fisherman actually does something very reasonable. He says, well, the more I fish, the more profit I make. And the more profit I make, the more I can fish. I can buy more boats and equipment and stuff. So the more I fish, the more profit I make. The more profit, the more fishing. Okay, perfectly reasonable, right? What this guy do not know is that there's another fisherman here. Okay, and they don't know each other. They don't even know that they exist. Okay, they live on different areas of the lake, and the other fisherman is thinking exactly the same. The more I fish, the more profit. The more profit, the more fishing. Okay, exactly the same thing. So what they do not see is that the total amount of fishing in the lake is the sum of the fishing of the two fishermen, and the lake has a limited capacity. The lake can replenish itself only up to a certain point. So after a while, they start to deplete this resource, right? Because there is a finite capacity for the lake. What we call sustainable capacity. Now, in system theory, there are many ways. I mean, I'm using the metaphor of a lake, but this kind of resource could be anything. Could be a financial resource, could be a technological resource, could be an intellectual resource, could be everything, could be a biological resource, could be anything. Okay, so if it is, for instance, a financial resource, one way to mitigate this problem is to inject more money into the financial resource. Okay, and you can mitigate the problem a little bit. If it is a biological resource, like a lake, you can have what we call governmental solutions. Like, for instance, you regulate fishing. Okay, there is a on-top authority who regulate fish, because the top authority has visibility of everything that's going on, and so the top-level authority, top-down, decides to regulate fishing in a certain way. Okay? And then there's another solution, as Angel was explaining last night. Have these guys talk to each other. Okay? Let everybody in the system become aware of what's really going on and trust people that they will be able to find the solution themselves if they become aware of what's really going on. So the problem is not being aware of what's going on. Of course, this was just a metaphor with ActiLife. In what was going on in ActiLife, and not ActiLife only, many other companies do this. Basically, the let's say business people, let's call it that way, but they were overfishing intellectual products from the IT department. That's what they were doing. They were fishing too much. And the way we fish intellectual products, of course, is not with nets, because you cannot fish anything intellectual with a net. But you can exercise psychological and political pressure, which is the way we try to fish more. Like, as I know you guys are familiar with things like this, like, oh, this is more urgent than anything else. Okay, put pressure on people. So you need to do this now, and not what other people want. You need to do what I want, because it's very urgent. Or other things like, oh yes, political stuff. Our key partner are waiting for this right now, so I need this yesterday, basically. And we don't have a time machine. Or this is the greatest business opportunity. Or other things like, oh yes, I committed to your deadline, so now you have to make the deadline. Okay, you're laughing. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, and then an oldie but goodie, a classic. That's what a CEO wants. The CEO or any other kind of divinity that has power of life and death over you. So I mean, so whatever. Now the thing is, nobody is the bad guy or the good guy in this story. The problem is everybody is trying to do the best they can, given the kind of awareness that they have. If you put yourself in the shoes of the project manager, I mean, they have a terrible pressure. There's a large display that basically is saying, okay, you're a loser because you sold less than the other guy. Okay, so what they're trying to do is to cope with the psychological pressure that this specific culture has created. And this company is not a bad company. The kind of products they deliver, they're actually very good products that are in the interest of humankind. What they do is has a social meaning. Okay. At the same time, they have a culture of being achievers, and that's the problem. Now, for them, we are active, we can achieve, we can do stuff. No? That's the source of their problem. Okay, so what time is it? Oh, we have plenty of time. No, thank you. You still with me? Ew! Congratulations! Okay, so can I give the rest of this talk in Italian? Is that the same for you? No, just kidding. So, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be philosophical for like a couple of minutes. Can I be philosophical for a couple of minutes? Okay. Only a couple of minutes. Yeah. You cannot take too much philosophy in the morning. I understand. So there is a concept in Buddhist tradition. There is a word. This word here, avijja. It's a Pali word, and it's a very old concept. I mean, it's 2,500 years old. So it's a very old concept, way before the internet. The word avijja comes actually from vijja. Vijja means clear knowledge. That's the meaning of the word vijja, clear knowledge. It means when you, by direct experience, you investigate something, you try to understand it deeply and clearly. You make an effort to clearly understand something. And you understand something not because you have read it on a book, but because it's direct experience. Okay, so that's the meaning of the word vijja. Now, avijja is lack of clear knowledge. Is when you do not have clear knowledge. Okay, and usually avijja is translated into English as ignorance, but it's a specific kind of ignorance. It's not knowing stuff. It's not seeing things for what they really are. It's not I do not know that thing. Is I do not see that thing for what it really is. Okay? And of course, we're all engulfed in avidya. Humankind is engulfed in avidya. It's for physiological reasons, for cognitive reasons, or just for lack of information. But we're all engulfed. Nobody in this room see the world for what it really is. Everybody has their own perception of reality. Okay? Depending on our psychological filters, our physiology, for instance, certain frequencies we do not even hear, and so on. Okay? So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying this is what we have. Okay? This is just accepting, as Marcin was explaining yesterday. So not seeing things for what they really are. This is avidya. There was another thing I want to... Okay, it will come back to my mind later. Now, the reason why I've been talking about ActiLife and avidya is because ActiLife is a classical example of people suffering from avidya. The problem they had was not a technological problem, was not an organizational problem. The problem was simply that people were not aware of how the system was really working. And what is ironic is that not knowing that, everybody was trying to do the best thing, and they were damaging themselves and other people because of avidya, because they were not able to see things as they really are. Things as they really are. Okay? Is that better? Can you hear me better now on the right side of the room? Is it too loud now? No? Okay, I can. Should I speak softly? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to keep your attention level high. I don't like rooms with no windows, that's the thing. So, okay, so avidya. Now, one way to mitigate avidya in an organization, and therefore creating a better, clear knowledge of things as they really are, is improving communication, of course. But there are different ways of improving communication. So I would like to try and give you some practical advice. The kind of listening I'm referring to here is a specific kind of listening that is described in Otto Scharmer's Theory U. I don't know if you don't need to be familiar with the concept, don't worry. But I just want to use a few concepts from Theory U. Now, listening is, first of all, fundamental. And so let's connect to one thing I was saying earlier, because it is an essential leadership skill. No leader, or let's put it this way, you cannot exercise leadership in any way if you're not aware of what's going on around you. Without awareness, you cannot exercise any kind of leadership, right? If you don't have a clear understanding, a clear knowledge of what's going on, your leadership is probably going to be faulty. So it's a fundamental leadership skill. And the other thing is that the way we listen to each other changes our perception, changes our relationships, and therefore changes our environment. Just by listening in a certain way, you can have an impact on the people around you, even though listening seems to be such a passive thing, right? But it's not. So the kind of, the description of listening that I want to tell you about starts from the most common type of listening, which is what we call downloading. Now, downloading is when, yes, you hear someone talking or you get information, but you're not really paying attention, you're not really listening to what's coming in. You're more interested in your own thoughts. So, for instance, you listen to somebody and in your mind you jump to conclusions immediately and then you interrupt that person. Or you listen to somebody, but at the same time you're thinking at what you should reply next. So it's not really listening. It's just, okay, I'm hearing stuff. Okay, background noise and so on. Yes, very common. I mean, I do it all the time, except when I try to pay more attention to that. The other level, if you are able to stop just downloading but to listen more carefully, is when you start actually checking the facts. Okay, let's hear. Let's listen to this person. What is this information? What are they trying to tell me? Which kind of implications are there? Okay, so you try to get the facts. And the other level is what we call empathic listening. So not only you listen to the facts, but you also try to understand the facts from the other person's perspective. Okay? You try to see the world not from your own perspective, but from the other person's perspective. And a deeper level is when you're able not only to listen and to see the world from another perspective, but from that point to try to generate a different future. That's why we call this generative listening. Now, admittedly, the wording in Theory U is a bit academic, so it doesn't really help understanding, but I'll give you a couple of examples and you'll see. Now, the thing is, if you want to move from one level to another, it's good for you to know, it's helpful, I will hope, for you to know that there are certain attitudes that will help you and other attitudes that will prevent you, will block you. So let's start with factual listening. As I was explaining, factual listening is when you can really listen to somebody and just observe the facts, okay? Just get the data, observe the facts. Now, the thing that's going to block you is what we call the voice of judgment. Yeah? Is when you don't even, you get the facts, but you consider your opinion either superior or inferior to the other person's opinion. So you don't really get the facts. You're still judging the facts. What is really helping you is just curiosity. So even if somebody is coming to you with some news, you're a delivery guy. Yeah? So let's say that you have problem delivering and you go to your, I don't know, project managers, whatever, users, and you tell them, okay, guys, not going to deliver on time. That's life. That happens. And then you want to analyze the data and see what's really going on, what was the cause, what are the implications. One thing is criticizing people, one thing is being curious. Okay, so tell me about this. Oh, so we're going to be late. Damn it. So tell me more. Explain it to me, please. I want to understand. So when you really want to understand, for the sake of understanding, that's when you are listening you're in this what we call factual listening. Okay? You listen for the sake of understanding, with curiosity. Empathic listening, of course, is a different story. What is going to block empathic listening is what we call the voice of cynicism, which is just a way to put emotional distance between you and another person. Okay? We're going to deliver, we're not going to deliver, I'm so sorry about that. And cynicism, you don't care about this, okay? You don't tell me you're sorry, I know you don't care. Talk to the end, okay? That's an example of being cynical. You put an emotional distance between you and the other person. But if, I don't remember your name, Alexei. So if Alexei comes to me and says, okay, Andrea, so we're going to be late, I'm so sorry. And I can see you're sorry, okay? I see the facts, I see you're sorry, let's talk, okay? Very different. What is going to help you, of course, is empathy, being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Yeah? So if I were in Alexei's position as a delivery manager and I had to go and tell my customers or the project managers that we're going to be late, I'd be sorry. Yeah, I understand that. If I put myself in his shoes. Probably, right? Probably. And generative listening is the most interesting part, because then again is when you start creating something new. And then again, creating something new is an act of leadership. So there are two things that, one thing that's going to stop you and one thing that's going to help you. The thing that's going to stop you is what we call the voice of fear. Okay? Fear of what? Fear of letting go, whatever that means for you. What I'm saying is, if you want to make space, make room for something new, most of the time you need to let go of something old. You need to let go, okay? And letting go is a very scary thing. For instance, you might want to let go of your status in the organization. When you empower people, it means that the part of the power that the organization gave you, you basically give to people. You let go of your authority. You let go of your power in the organization. Okay? Or if you move from a vertical organizational structure to horizontal, now we have a problem. How about bonuses, benefits, incentives, and stuff like that? Okay, this is probably going to change. Are you willing to let go of your bonuses to create a healthier and more productive environment for everyone? Letting go is a very scary thing. Letting go is a very scary thing. But if you're able to have courage, okay, then is when you make space for something new. You let go and you make space for something new. Let me check the time. Okay. The effects of this kind of listening are very interesting, both at the personal level and at the social level. Because first of all, the moment you start listening in that way, you develop what we call self-awareness. Because, I mean, to be able to listen in that specific way means that you need to check with yourself from time to time. Like, you need to check, am I really paying attention to this person? Am I really trying to see his perspective? Okay, am I being courageous while I'm listening to this person? Do I accept to let go of my own beliefs and listen to this person, letting go of my beliefs? Okay, it takes a lot of self-awareness. And the moment you become more self-aware, you're more able to lead yourself. Okay, you cannot lead yourself if you're not aware of yourself. You just react. Okay, without awareness, you just react. With awareness, you make decisions. Therefore, you lead yourself. You decide what to do. And the other effect is the effect on the ecosystem. Because the moment you start you start listening to each other in such a way, and people start listening to each other in such a way, they communicate better. The communication is flowing. Let's go back to ActiLife. Do you think if the project managers had been able to talk openly with the CEO and with the IT guys, and everybody had been able to analyze that problem they were having from this perspective, with curiosity, empathy, and courage, do you think they would have improved? They had, let's say, do you think they could have had a better opportunity to improve their environment? I think they would. It would have been much better than calling an external person like myself and ask that person who has little knowledge about their day-to-day life, ask this person to fix them. How can I fix you? How can I change Bluto? If Bluto does not want to change and I don't know the real issues that Bluto has. Okay? But if Bluto wants to change, and it starts asking questions and listening carefully, they would have found their own solution. Much better than implementing your favorite agile scaling framework, okay? Which is a ready solution for solving other people's problem. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. So remember artifacts and paradigm. What I'm trying to say is that if you can invite people to listen in this way, you can make a difference. Now, this is an Agile conference. So from my point of view, I really enjoyed Angel's presentation last night, the keynote, the closing keynote. I mean, he's a very entertaining guy, and it has a lot of he has a lot of experience, and I can easily sympathize with many things he said. He was talking about changing the mindset and processes, and so on and so on and so on. So. There is a debate in the Agile community, which is, for instance, should we change the processes so that the mindset will change, or should we do it the other way around? Well, the thing is, from my perspective, the Agile practices alone can help you just go to factual listening if you're lucky. What I'm saying is that one of the principles in Agile is transparency, for instance, right? We try to make everything transparent so that we can discuss it together. That's what we do, for instance, in a retrospective. But how many retrospectives fail because people observe the facts, but they don't put themselves in other people's shoes? I see the fact, but I'm not willing to go there. I'm not willing to change my opinion. I'm scared to change. Okay? So we have the tools, but we don't have the paradigms. And I believe that forsaking this part, the paradigms or the values, whatever you want to call it, is going to kill your agility. Your agility is going to be extremely frail if you just do the practices and forget about, for instance, the values. So quick check. Do we have any certified Scrum Master in the room? And don't be shy, I'm one. I confess, okay, I'm a certified Scrum Master, okay? Okay, thank you guys. Does anybody remember off the top of your head the 5 Scrum values? Five. So, okay, okay. So we have, okay, one person back there, congratulations, okay? And maybe you can help me remember, so they are commitment, focus, courage, respect, and communication. Is that right? Openness, right? Okay. So you see what I'm trying to say? The thing I've been talking about, respect people, communicate openly, and have courage. Okay, they were in this agile foundations since the beginning, but most people just forget them because they focus on the practices. And by the way, they are not 5 values. This is a value system. It means that whatever you do in Scrum, you should do with openness, focus, commitment, courage, and respect. All 5 together, okay? If you want to do Scrum. If you want to do extreme programming, you have simplicity, feedback, communication, respect, and courage. Surprise, okay? We're all pointing in the same direction. We are all pointing in the same direction, which is the practices are good, the practices are great, they can give you information, data, feedback, etc. But you also need to work on your mind, on the way you relate to other people. Okay? Now, bad news. Bad news. From my experience, I mean, I've been trying to help companies to change for the last 10 years, more or less. From my experience, and this is my guesstimation, so I don't have data that I've captured from the field by probing something, okay? But this is just my personal impression. 95% of companies that call for agile coaching, but what they really want is consultancy, which is exactly what ActiLife did. Okay, ActiLife wanted someone to go there and fix them. That's what a consultant does. A consultant will give you the solution. You have the problem, and I will talk with you, and then I'll give you the solution. Okay, but coaching is I'll help you change. I will help you in your change. As you change because you want to, I'll be there to guide and support you. That's coaching. It's a different story. Very different story. So companies, they ask for coaching, but what they want is consultancy. And so what they say is, yes, we want to change, but actually what they think is, yes, yeah, we want to change, as long as you fix somebody else and you don't change the existing power structures. You don't take privileges away from powerful people. Okay? On the other hand, 95% of agile coaches, okay, are consultants. I mean, what I mean is they do the work of a consultant. They go there and fix stuff. Okay, so I'll teach you this, and I'll show you that, and this is what you should do, and then you should do stand-ups, and then you have the retrospective, and this is your backlog, and this is how you split the stories. Okay, that's a solution, right? It's not helping you to change. So what they say is, yes, I'll coach you, but what they mean is, yeah, don't worry, I'll take care of that, I'll fix you. Yeah, you are in good hands. I'm a good mechanic. I can fix organizations. Okay. Sorry, I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing. Oh, by the way, of course, there is you know what they say, no, it takes 2 to tango, right? So this 95-95 thing is because that's what the companies want, and that's what the market gives. Okay, good balance. So I'm just observing this. I'm not judging. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just suggesting that you become more aware of this phenomenon, and you decide if you want to be on the 5% or the 95%. Okay? Just make your own decision. You want to be with the 95% or with the 5% that is really changing? Up to you. And whatever you decide will be fine. But must be your decision. So, another piece of practical advice, and I'll try to save a couple of minutes for questions or just for having fun. Where can you start from? First of all, you need to start from yourself. So what you can do is start paying attention to your listening. The other thing you can do, if you want to, is practice with a buddy. If you want to improve the way you listen, the best thing to do is to practice. And you can practice with a friend, with a colleague, with a lover. You can, if you find someone who wants to practice listening with you, it's cheap, right? It just takes dedication, but it's easy to do. And be an example to other people. Be an example to other people. If at some point somebody at work will come to you, they'll have a conversation, and they will tell you, it's a pleasure talking with you. And you may say, yeah, because I'm listening to you. So, and you can inspire people to communicate better, more deeply, more openly, more courageously. Okay, so be an example to others. And for serious stuff, especially for complex organizational change, get coaching, real coaching. So, quick wrap up. I suggested that with curiosity, empathy, and courage, you can listen in a certain way. Okay. If you listen in a certain way, you have two effects. You reduce avidya. Oh, by the way, that's what I forgot to tell you. Oh, the background of the slides about avidya is you might be wondering, it's not a Buddhist thing. The background is a cosmological model before Copernicus, is a geocentric cosmological model. When we thought that we were the center of the universe and everything would revolve around us, okay? We just didn't have the information, we didn't have the technology, we didn't have the mathematical models, and that was our vision of the world. Okay? So, anyway, what I'm trying to say is, you can improve your clear knowledge by listening a certain way. You can improve awareness and dialogue inside your social system if you improve your listening, which, by the way, will promote curiosity, empathy, and courage. It's a systemic thing. And if you're able to reduce avidya, you improve clear knowledge, you can change the paradigms. If ActiLife had been able to say, you know what? This thing that we put pressure on the people who sell, would therefore put pressure on the ATP, we're actually damaging ourselves. Okay? We are actually damaging ourselves because of the world that we have created for ourselves, they would have changed their paradigms. And changing the paradigms changes the artifacts as well, what you see and observe. And you can promote horizontal leadership by doing that. You can create more awareness, dialogue, people can make decisions together. They are not leaders. Nobody is a leader. Sometimes it's a very naive thing to say about leadership is in self-organization. Everybody is a leader. No, I'm sorry. Nobody is a leader in self-organization. What happens is that from time to time, everybody is able to manifest acts of leadership. Nobody is a leader, and everybody is a leader. But it's not the role, it's the fact that from time to time people can perform acts of leadership openly, freely, safely. That's the meaning of horizontal leadership. And so, and it's systemic, so it supports itself in a nice way. And I'm done. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being with me. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.